Welcome back, everybody. I hope everybody's doing okay. I hope you're taking care of yourself and taking care of each other, because let's face it, that's where it's at. Together we're stronger. Look out for one another, right? So, tonight I'm doing some pre-prep for the family for the week, and I want to share with you an alternative to pasta, and it's one of our favorites. So we're going to do a slight kind of Italian dish, spaghetti squash with Italian sausage. So, without any further ado, let's get started. Alright, so for tonight, our main ingredient, for the purposes of this video anyways, is going to be our spaghetti squash. So we are going to make a dish that's going to have Italian sausage in it, but I want to focus on the spaghetti squash. So if you want to get away from the pasta, you want to get away from the gluten and things like that, this is a wonderful alternative. Now, spaghetti squash has a tendency, once you cook it, it's kind of stringy. It just kind of falls apart like that. So it's almost nature's noodle, if you will. And with this, it's great if you're trying to avoid those carbs and that gluten. Great alternative right here. If you're doing low carb or keto, this is a great substitute. When you get it all portioned out, about a cup of this is around 8 grams net carbs. So it's a wonderful substitute if you're watching your carbs, all right? So let's get this guy prepped up, and what we're going to do, the cooking itself is not all that difficult. The hard part is getting this guy cut up in half and then waiting the 45 minutes or so while he's in the oven steaming. Let's get to that and I'll show you, all right? So I got him on my cutting board here, and what I want to try and do is I'm going to try and split this guy in half without hurting myself or anything else on this counter. There we go. I had to change the my tools here. Now the outer skin on this is kind of hard, so just please be careful when you do this, that you don't wind up hurting yourself. There we go. And once it gets going, it's not too bad. Again, just be careful, okay? But once we get him going here, as you can see, it does take a little bit. And I'm trying not to hurt myself. Sometimes I tend to over-muscle things and overdo it. But I think we're at a point here where I can just pull him apart here. There we go. Finish cutting him down. And there we go. So we got our guy split in half here. And we're just going to go ahead and clean this out real quick. So we're going to take all the seeds and the stringy and the pulpy material here, get that cleaned out really quick, and then I'm going to put them on a cookie sheet. So while I'm cleaning this up, I know I said I'd clean it up and then I'd be right back, right? So, but I want to go ahead and kind of cover this while I got this going, and that way you can see it really doesn't take much to clean the inside of this out. But what I wanted to tell you was that in addition to this being a great substitute for pasta, it's a wonderful source of potassium. So a lot of our nutrition, or a lot of our food nowadays is lacking in nutrition. With the GMO stuff and all the fillers and stuff like that, without going down a rabbit hole, a lot of our nutrition is lacking. And it's lacking in minerals and vitamins and things of that nature. So if you can find yourself a good organic source of this stuff, that's wonderful. And one of the two of the minerals that are really lacking in our diet today are magnesium and potassium. It's really, it's gotten to the point where if you want to actually get your good daily source of that stuff, it's really difficult to do. So things like avocados, for example, are really, really good in potassium. They actually have more than a lot of stuff that you would assume has potassium in it. But yes, so our spaghetti squash here is an excellent source of potassium, which is great for the body. I should probably just make a video on some of these things and what they do for us and how and why it is so important. So, but I'm going to go ahead and get these things cleaned up a little bit more, but that's pretty much it right there. And I'm going to get my cookie sheet ready, or baking sheet, so that we can get these things in the oven, okay? So while we're waiting for our spaghetti squash to cook, I just wanted to show you this because I'm getting ready to cook this. So here's the Italian sausage. It's pork sausage. This one I have not tried before, so this is actually the first time I've actually tried this particular type of Italian sausage from Butcher Box. But the one thing I want to point out, and this is no matter where you buy your meat from, when you're looking at stuff like this, and I hope I can kind of zoom in on this, if you want to avoid a lot of the stuff that's inflammatory to your system or that's wreaking havoc on your system, these are some of the things you need to look for. It's not that it's just organic and all of this other good stuff, but right here, this is what you're looking for. No antibiotics ever. No added hormones ever. Okay? Those are right there some of the biggest things to look for. So while a lot of your meats in the store will tell you that they're humanely raised and you know they didn't eat anything GMO'd or anything, and some of them will say no, not raised on antibiotics or not raised on hormones. However, that doesn't mean that that's completely true, because they can say no antibiotics and no hormones while they were on the farm, but when they went to actually to the next facility where they get ready to process them, sometimes they're fed a little extra to kind of fatten them up, and at that point they'll give them some antibiotics or some hormones or something about 30 days or so before they're actually processed. So if you're looking to avoid some of this stuff, this is what you're looking for. No antibiotics ever, and no added hormones ever, okay? Okay, so our squash is almost done, and our Italian sausage is already finished, and I went ahead and tried it. Now, as I said, this is the first time I've actually ordered this particular menu item or meat item from Butcher Box, and we tried it. We love it. I'm usually partial to the spicy Italian sausage. This one is not, but it's got a wonderful flavor. I didn't have to add anything to it, so I didn't even season it or anything. So right now, I'm just going to go ahead and mince up some garlic and make a butter garlic sauce that will be ready to go once the squash is out of the oven. So that'll be in a few minutes, and once I got that out, we'll come right back and let you see that, okay? Our squash is out of the oven, and you can see the fork goes right through the skin here. This is hot. We'll flip that over, and hopefully you can see this, but basically the squash has steamed itself, and it's just coming apart in ribbons. So if you look at it, and I'll get a better camera angle for you on this so that you can see, but it pretty much just looks like a thin spaghetti, not quite an angel, a little thicker than an angel hair pasta, but this is going to be a wonderful pasta substitute, and this is going to go great with a little bit of the butter garlic sauce and our Italian sausage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish scraping this and maybe get a camera angle where you can see this a little bit better, and see what's actually going on here. So let me see if I can bring you in a little closer, take a little bit of a good detailed look in here, and we'll start plating some of this stuff up, okay? Here's our closer camera view, and as you can see, all I have to do is start pulling at this, and you can see what looks like little strands of pasta in there. Right there. So I've got my garlic butter going off to the side over here, and over there I have my Italian sausage already cooked up and ready to go, and I'm going to finish just scraping this out of the shell. I'm going to put this into a bowl and set it aside for a minute, and then we'll come back and we'll see what this looks like. Okay, so we're starting our plating here, and I'm just going to take some more of this just to show you. We'll get a nice bed of this spaghetti squash on your plate here. Like so. Don't mind my fingers. We get that in there. And I'm going to go ahead and take some of my buttered garlic. Drizzle just a little bit of that on there. Get some of that garlic in there. And then at this point, I'm going to go ahead and just top it off. And you get to see me make a mess right here. That's okay, it's not going to go to waste. A little bit, or a lot, of our Italian sausage. And as I've mentioned, I hadn't used this one before, so this is the first time we've actually tasted it, and I'm loving the flavor. Again, I've got my fresh chunk of Parmesan cheese in there. Squish that in there, and I'm going to shred some of that. A little bit of that on top. A lot of that on top. And there you have it, folks. A replacement for your pasta. Gluten-free. Very low carb. Some fresh garlic sauteed in butter. Put that on there. Our Italian sausage, which has a wonderful flavor. And fresh Parmesan cheese. This is, I mean, other than waiting for it in the oven and then having to scrape it out from inside the actual squash shell, there's really not that much. It's just waiting for it to come out of the oven. The hardest part is just splitting it in half, actually. And you can take this, and what we'll do sometimes is we'll go ahead and freeze the squash and portion it out so that later we can go ahead and take it out when we want to. Or we can take the whole setup as is like this, pre-prep it, and then freeze it and bring it out later. But there you have it, folks. Alright, folks, so we've got our squash all scooped out. So if you see, we've got the outer husk here. It's still fine. But the inside's already been scraped out. So all of the squash on the inside has been scraped out. I've put that in a bowl, and some of it I'm going to partition out for some meals for us this week, since there's just 2 of us in the household right now. This will be a couple of meals for us, and then I'll go ahead and prep some more and put those in the freezer so we can have those either later on in the week or for next week, however we decide to do this. But as you see, so here's our dish. It's really very simple. We have the squash, the sausage, the Italian sausage on top, and some fresh Parmesan. Nothing really added to this other than the oil and the salt and pepper that I seasoned the squash with. There's really no other seasoning other than what was already there. The Butcher Box, we've tasted it. We've agreed that we love it. So this is definitely something we're going to order again. And this is ready to go for dinner. And we have a small meal prep container. There's about a cup of the squash in there, and then about 4 ounces or so, 4 to 6 ounces of the meat on top of that. Depends on how much meat you want, really. And then, of course, the cheese on top. So this is ready to go. We'll go ahead and put the lid on it, get these thrown in the fridge, get a couple thrown in the freezer, and we're good to go. So these meals are ready for us to grab and go. So, simple. So I hope that you got something out of this. I hope you learned something. If not, give you some ideas and something you can try for yourself, okay? The only difficult part about this whole recipe is getting that squash cut open. The outside is pretty tough. And then, of course, I do want to note that I did have the squash in the oven for about an hour and 15 minutes before it was done all the way through. So again, it's the first time I've actually made this since the move out to where we're at right now. And I have mentioned that we are at higher elevation, so cooking times vary a little bit. So, but it was 375 in the oven for about an hour and 15 minutes. So adjust accordingly and go from there, all right? And of course, you can always season the squash with a little bit of something else. Remember, turn the squash upside down so it steams as it's cooking in the oven, okay? So, until we meet again, stay healthy. Again, if you like what you see, subscribe, go ahead and hit that notification bell, and we'll see you in the next video.